Hi, this is Kiran. Welcome to the Parent Culture on Experiential Parenting. April is the month of military children. So, the focus of our conversation is going to be about being military brats, the experiences that we get from being military children, and how it shapes our life. This is my niece Gauri,
Hi.
and this is me, Kiran. We are a few generations apart, but Fauji's. Had my dad been here, we would have been three generation of Fauji brats. My dad was a Fauji brat,
And my dad is also a Fauji brat.
and so are you. That we become borderless as the earth is, remove the man made borders, and have no need for armies. But given the current circumstances and the way the world is designed and the way we've divided it, armies are a huge reality of our lives.
Totally agreed.
So we would like to see a world free of armies, though we've grown up in army cantonments. And we are currently in gorgeous Almora with the weather's beautiful. It's been raining, and we're all in our woolens, and it's a beautiful cant. So yeah, happy to be in a cantonment area during the military children's month.
Yeah, I'm completely loving it. It's a super old cant and it's great to be here.
True. Before we start this conversation, we want to salute all our wonderful men and women in uniform, serving and retired. Though we wish world peace,
Yes.
we wish that a kinder army, a more human rights based army. So, Gauri, tell me, what's your first memory of growing up as an army brat? I mean, what is the first thing you remember?
I think my absolutely first memory is traveling on a special train when my father's regiment was moving from one place to another. And yeah, that was a very new experience for me. And I was around 2 years old. That's probably my first memory of life, probably. And yeah, so that's one experience that I've never done after that. And yeah, I still hold it very close to me because it's not something that you do very often in life.
True. I mean, I also have a memory of special trains. I think our unit was moving from Trivandrum to Kashmir, and I think we were going to live in separated family accommodations in Dehradun, and we took a 10-day journey from Trivandrum to Delhi. And what would happen was the tracks had to be empty for the special train to pass, and only once the passenger trains had gone would they get the signal to move. So there would be times when we would be stranded in the middle of nowhere for 12 hours, and as children, to be continuously engaged at that level. In the train was everybody else. There were horses, there were tanks, we were carrying our dogs, we had kitchens running on the train, and we had so many of our cant friends from our unit who were there. And it was one big party for sure. And I also remember that early in the morning you would hear the bugle go, because we have stopped in a ambiguous station, and you would see the army men, the soldiers, the officers, all in full uniform doing the parade. It's one of my most cherished memories as well.
Yeah, now that you talk about the bugles, I remember that in one of the cans that we were in, every Thursday there was an army band that would go around waking everybody up. So at 5 a.m., they would go around the entire cant, and all of us would wake up music every Thursday, which was, I think, which is another like very nice memory that I have from my childhood in cants.
Yeah, and I think talking about music, my dad was in the Gurkhas. Nobody plays music like the Gurkhas. Nobody, and nobody marches like the Gurkhas, I have to say. And you can always see in beating the retreat who comes first. Yes, I mean, amazing memories of growing up in the Cant. Very safe environment, very liberal in certain ways. We would be cycling all over. You could go swimming. There were libraries. The schools were so close. You knew everybody in the neighborhood. I think it cultivated a lot of my personality. What about you?
Yeah, I also felt extremely safe in the cant, and I would look forward every day to go to the badminton court, to the tennis court. Yeah, I picked up a lot of sports in these cants, stuff like golf that probably you don't play when you're children. Got trained by Mission Olympics coaches, so that kind of access was good. And yeah, so that was one part that I liked about the cant life, but it was also very, I also felt that it was also very insulated from the places, the local context of the places that these cants were located in. So I did travel to a lot of places and met a lot of different kind of people, but uh, contrary to popular belief, I don't think I got to experience the place, the local flavor of the place as much as I would have liked in hindsight. So yeah, but otherwise, I think the cant life was brilliant. I have great memories of just roaming around on the streets every day, 4 p.m., and everybody would be at the badminton court or at the tennis court, whatever you liked, you could go and play. Yeah, so that was great.
Now that you mentioned that, I mean, for me, the perspective was that I studied in Kendra Vidyalayas, which are these central government schools, and it has a certain quota of local people coming in, maybe 10%, I forget how much. So we would have people from the community outside who would, children from those communities who were civilians who came to study with us. And then, of course, we had people from all over India speaking all kinds of languages, you know, of all color, languages, religion, clothes. I mean, whatever you say, there was so much diversity, which now that when I look at the schools my kids go to, I sort of don't see that. And I really feel saddened because I got to know about India through these other children that I studied with. And they were like, there would be generals' kids there, there would be brigadiers, there would be colonels, there would be soldiers. I mean, everybody's kids studied in the same class, sat in the same seat, ate the same kind of food. I mean, there was so much equality. I don't know. I learned about equality and, the commonness of humanity and human rights. I think was my first learning there, ironically.
Yeah, I totally agree about people from different walks of life being there in school and all kinds of regions represented, all kinds of walks of life represented, but also the kind of hierarchy that is there in, yeah, negative, yeah, but you
Right.
can edit it out. The kind of hierarchy, I also felt that, कैसे बोलूं यार in a politically correct way.
So the hierarchy wasn't there in the children. I don't think the
Okay, I
generals.
think it's a generational thing because coming मेरी generation तक आते आते क्या हो गया कि no matter how much you tried, no matter how much you sat with like Jawan's
Others.
kids and whatever, there was always a division. Because, for example, if there's a program happening in the school, who would get selected? Who were the
English speaking.
selectors? English speaking officers, kids were selectors. They would become the leaders of houses and everything. They would do all these selections. And there was actually a complaint made against us once in school ki, these people get selected all the time only because they're friends with literally. So there was a
Nepotism.
lot of division.
The food culture that I was talking about, that is part of our family. Also, the food in the mess was so like amazing and different.
Yeah, I mean, certain kind of ta- okay, there's a certain kind of cooking that only happens in the mess, and certain kind of snacks that taste a certain way only in the mess. When you try to make them at home, they just don't taste the same way. So yeah, the food culture in our homes has also been quite influenced by what we ate in these messes. We adopted a lot of recipes from what we ate in the messes. So cakes, tipsy puddings, bread puddings. These were
Custards,
custards.
jellies.
Yeah,
I know. True, true, true. And I think one of the biggest things about this whole food culture thing was that in the Gurkha regiments, we have bada khanas, or we had them. I don't know if you still have them. Oh my God, and the mutton that would be cooked there. I have not eaten that kind of mutton, or the devil's egg, or there would be these lovely lollipops of these, what you may call it, chops. And the way they cooked it, nobody else cooks it. Oh my God, I salivate for that.
Yeah. Similarly, like my father was in a South Indian regiment at one point of time, and every Sunday we would get lovely South Indian food, and that would be something that we would look forward to throughout the week. And we would wait for somebody to come from the unit and deliver the food, and that's one of the best memories that I have.
Yeah. The other thing is, in the army you learn how to dress appropriately. It's a place where you have to dress appropriately. If you're going to the mess, you have to be dressed a certain way. If you're going to play sports, you have to be dressed a certain way. If you're going for a party, you'd be dressed a certain way. I mean, while I was growing up, the women always wore saris and these big buns and lovely jhumkas. I don't know if it's still true for the forge or not. You're closer to sort of figuring out that, but I'm sure it's also changed a lot since you were haunting the messes and the cans.
I think for yeah, like for example, I have these memories of my mom getting ready and going off for parties, and like my duty would be to help her with the
The sari,
yeah, like क्या
level
बोलते
it,
हैं उसे.
the pleats.
Yeah, so my duty would be to help her with the pleat. So that's like etched in my mind because I would really get scolded by my mom for not doing it properly. So yeah, those parties, my mom getting ready for every party, that used to be. But this dressing appropriately, huh? Please, what is appropriate?
So the thing is, I mean, what I mean by appropriate is that I sometimes see that people are going to receive an award from the president and they're in blue jeans. To me, that seems inappropriate. People who cannot afford it will wear their dresses. I've seen tribal women wearing their tribal dresses. I've seen, farmers in their Gandhian caps and their kurta pajamas or their dhotis. They wear Indian clothes. I see people who are like, who are well off and receiving it for some achievement that they've done in life, sort of not respecting the culture. And that to me, I mean, it irks me. I'm sorry to say, because I think if you're receiving an award from the highest nominated head of your country, you should be dressed appropriately. I don't know, maybe I'm old world.
So even if you're in the middle of nowhere and you've never heard of this place and your father happens to get posted to some of these really isolated places, you don't really feel it. You don't feel like you are in a place that you don't know or it's new to you. No, because there are people all around you, and I feel that people make a place. So I think I've had great experiences in the most non dis
Isolated and
isolated places in the country.
one thing about army is that you have to keep moving very frequently. How did you take to that?
Um, in hindsight, I quite like it because I got to make start afresh every 2 years, go to a new school, make new friends. So I have friends all over. So that was the good part. But of course, when I was going through it, I didn't like it much because I would have to leave my friends behind every 2 years, adjust in a new place. But that was me because I am kind of an introvert. So the first few months would be kind of difficult for me. But once I adjusted to the new place, I was okay with it. But in hindsight, I think that was something that really shaped me because this is a stereotypical Fauji kid answer, but I think I really learned how to adapt to these new places. And yeah, I think that the huge learning that I took out of it was adaptation. And yeah.
I agree because I changed 8 schools and I loved it. I loved all my schools. I loved all the new places. When we moved to Gujarat, I would learn how to speak Guju. I loved the Guju food. In Trivandrum, I loved the idli, dosa, sambar. My mother would learn to cook all these. And even when we moved away from the places that we were staying in and went to, for example, Uttarakhand, which is our home state, we still ate those dishes because they were just part of our menu. They became part of our food culture. So I think that really was amazing. And I agree that changing schools and places so frequently gave us the ability to adapt like chameleons. We could just meet people and start conversations and get along and, adapt to change. In fact, I'm addicted to change, is what I would say, because of that. And it's greatly shaped our personalities. More often than not, for example, like my husband Joy, he's lived in the same city all his life, in the same colony all his life, and studied in the same school all his life. I cannot imagine a life like that, can you?
Not really. In fact, when I started working for the first time, after 2 years, I was like, okay, nothing's changing. What do I do? Where do I go from here? Because I was so used to
Change every few years.
change every few years, I just couldn't adjust to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was kind of difficult.
Joy के friend circle वही है. मतलब
Oh, right.
everything's like consistently the same, but we don't have that kind of
Long lasting friendships नहीं है हमारी. Oh, so I think probably for your generation, it was a bit more difficult because there was no internet and keeping in touch was a little difficult. And now, probably, I think you are reconnecting with a lot of your old friends through Facebook and stuff. But for us, it's not been as difficult. Of course, we don't have long lasting uh, uh, friendships like people who've lived in the same city do, but I think internet's made it much easier. I mean, at least with a few really good friends, you do keep in touch, and yeah, so that's lasted. And yeah, I think with the internet, it's become much easier. So
So, the kind of exposure and change that you experienced as a child, do you think it was advantageous or do you think it was disadvantageous? Should children have that kind of exposure, that kind of change, that kind of understanding of this country that you have? Do you think you would have had it if you stayed in the same place and, had the same friends for life in the same neighborhood?
not really. I mean, I would not say that people who've lived in the same neighborhood don't have that kind of understanding. I'm sure some people are interested and they जो भी है मतलब खुद ही पढ़ लेते हैं. But I think it was much easier moving around so many states, so many new places. It was just certain things were just common knowledge for us. I mean, we learned a lot about languages, food, different kind of people, different regions. So it wasn't something that you had to make an effort to learn. It was just how your life changed and how you adapted to it and what you picked up along the way. So I think that kind of exposure definitely helps in terms of um, gaining general knowledge. And yeah, later in life, when you go to a new place and you have to shift places, I think that does make a difference. So that exposure really helps.
So, moms and dads, the conclusion is that exposure and change is good. If your career is taking you to different cities, it's taking you to different places, it's taking you to different countries, then don't be scared about how the impact will be on your children. Children are extremely resilient. They will just bloom, they will go with the flow. It may be a little tough, you may have to handhold because every child is different. They may not be as thick skinned like us. But I find that majority of the children do adjust, do like the change, and love the learning that comes with it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Gauri, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you have any other questions that you would like to ask us, please do write into us. Our email ID and our WhatsApp number is on our description. And keep viewing, liking, sharing, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.